You know, one of the toughest videos that we have to make here at Chat Sports is talking about the cut candidates because, well, it has to happen at least every single season. Now, whether or not you cut one player or if you cut 10 players, there always seems to be a couple of players that are right on that roster bubble that maybe cost a little too much and maybe didn't give you a ton of production. So on today's episode of the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports, my name is Moose, by the way. Welcome in. I'm going to give you my surprise cut candidates for the upcoming 2026 season. 3 players that I believe are borderline to not only make the roster, but maybe cutting them actually saves you a little bit of cap so that you can be a little bit aggressive in free agency, if you will. Now, before we start, these are not going to be any borderline roster bubble players, so I'm not going to give you guys that may or may not make the 53-man roster. These are all players that either would have made the 53 or did make the 53-man roster. Now, there are some requirements also that I have. Players that could save the Broncos money in 2026. All 3 of these players will save at least $1 million for the Broncos. They didn't have great productivity in 2025 or didn't play really at all. And we could find some replacements for them in free agency or in the draft. So all of these requirements are met based off of these 3 players that I'm about to give you. Now, before we get to that, we need 40 subs on today's video. So do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. We are well on our way to 57,000. Our goal, by the way, after the draft is 60,000 subscribers here on the Broncos Breakdown. So if you love the offseason content, you got to do Uncle Moose a favor and smash that sub button. Our first one, Evan Engram. Whoa, Moose, starting off big here. Yep, we sure are. Evan Engram did not have a great year, and before you come for my jugular in the comment section, he was fine, Moose. He was so fine. Nope, no, he wasn't, because not only did he say that he vows to have a better year than he did this year, he talked about wanting a bigger role in the offense and that it just never materialized. And that's kind of evident by his 50 receptions, 461 yards, and 1 touchdown. I'm sorry, as my tight end for my team, I want you to have more than 1 touchdown. I don't need you to have 1,000 yards receiving. I don't need you to have 850 yards receiving or 90 receptions. But what I do need you to be is a red zone threat. And he wasn't. He also ranked tied for 3rd this year amongst tight ends in drops. He had 4. So if you're dropping the ball, if you're plagued by injuries, if you're not a red zone threat, what are you doing for my quarterback? What are you doing for this offense? Oh, and he's also a massive cap savings, guys. $6.5 million. I'm rounding up. It's actually $6.47 million. I'm rounding up. $6.5 million in cap savings if you designate him as a post-June 1st cut. So by March 13th, if you have him off the roster, you save $6.5 million. That could open up some cap space, a little bit of extra spending, specifically if you wanted to re-sign any of your favorites that you want to come back this coming year. Also, his overall role in the offense left little to be desired. Think about it. We had drops nonstop. He didn't stretch the field. He was sort of this underneath option that the Denver Broncos tried to utilize now and again. He only really had 2 great games. He played really well against the Eagles, and he played really well against the Washington Commanders. That was it. He also had problems with his calf. He had problems with his back. It just wasn't a great year for Evan Engram. And I also said in a previous episode, I want the Broncos to go young at tight end. Let's draft Max Clare. Let's draft Eli Stowers. Let's draft Joe Royer. I know a lot of people want Kenyon Sadiq, but he's most likely going to be gone between picks 12 and picks 18, and we pick 30th this year. So it's probably not going to happen. I'd go young at tight end, and maybe if you really wanted to be aggressive about it, you could go out and sign a guy like Dallas Goedert, who, granted, didn't give you a ton of yards this year, but got you 11 receiving touchdowns. Much more of a red zone threat than Evan Engram was this year. Let's move on to our second surprise cut candidate. And this one, maybe not as big of a surprise as, people would think. Matt Peart, I have as a cut candidate. This is mostly because of the finances, but I will come up and tell you here in just a little bit why cutting Peart makes as much sense, if you think about it, as any Broncos offensive linemen that we currently have on the roster. Now, before we do that, I got to tell you about my friends over at Prize Picks. The big game is right around the corner. We've got Patriots versus Seahawks, my friends. We were so close to making it. But with the big game being right around the corner, that also means your last chance to get in on the real football action before next season is right now. So, close out the season the right way with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. They got a brand new feature alert. Prize Picks now has early payouts, meaning if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Speaking of your lineups, if you're not putting in the max discount, what are you doing? It's Drake May, more than half a passing yard. It's so easy, a caveman could do it, as they say. By the way, here is my 4-pick flex play if you wanted to take a look for yourself. I've got that max discount play, more than half a passing yard, but I also have JSN and Ramondre Stevenson in this lineup as well. Takes 30 seconds to make. Yours can look like this. Doesn't have to. Just download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. So, Mr. Peart, obviously, he played that one game against the Eagles and then goes on IR. It was a tougher season for him. But here's what's funny enough. He's a tackle that they started at the guard position. And like I told you, the Broncos, this mostly makes sense from a cap savings perspective. If you cut him, and this is even pre-June 1st, you save $3.2 million. So it's not a ton of money. But another reason why this makes a lot of sense is the Broncos' offensive line is all wrapped up under contract. Bowles, Powers, Wattenberg, Miners, and McGlinchey. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. If we decided to move off of a guy like Ben Powers, if you traded him or if you decided to cut him, I don't think you'd cut him, but most likely a trade there. The entire Broncos' offensive line is completely wrapped up under contract. And here's another great thing. You can find depth anywhere. You can find depth in the draft, of which we have 9 draft picks. You can find it in free agency. You can find it basically anywhere. Offensive linemen, especially at the depth position. Plus, we get Nick Arjulo coming back. I mean, you get a bunch of players coming back, right? So we got Frank Crum. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about replacing Matt Peart, which is why this is probably the easiest cut out of all of them for the Broncos. Saves $3.2 million. You can find depth anywhere. The Broncos' offensive line is really good. It's really deep, and it's really, the continuity around this offensive line is excellent. So before we continue on with my last cut candidate, my last surprise cut candidate, do me a favor, get down to the comment section down below and name a player that the Broncos should cut. That leads me to my final cut candidate, Drew Sanders, who, yes, will be taking up a 53-man roster spot if and when he gets back into playing shape. Drew Sanders is one of those players that I don't need to see anymore. You injured yourself in training camp back in late July, and we were told that he was only going to miss the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, that he was going to be back and available to play in Week 5 against Philadelphia Eagles. He didn't even take the field once in 2025. That's telling. So you mean to tell me that the entire year he had that nagging foot injury? The entire year after they told us it would only be 4 weeks. And this is with the injury to Dre Greenlaw as well. Something wasn't adding up. There was a lot of stink around this story. And again, not a huge amount of cap savings, only $1.5 million, but I've seen enough. I think it's time to move off of Drew Sanders. And yes, I say that even with the upcoming decisions the Broncos have to make at the linebacker position. Singleton, he's a free agent. Strnad, he's a free agent. You've got Turner on the back end. You've got Lavelle Bailey that you could activate to the 53-man roster. Dre Greenlaw is obviously going to be here. This is also, by the way, one of those positions I would attack very early in the draft. We've got 2 prime candidates to get either early in the second, or in the second round because we're not early in the second, or late in the first. Either one of these players I'd be okay with getting. Anthony Hill Jr. from Texas or C.J. Allen from the University of Georgia. So I think linebacker is a position the Broncos will explore in the draft. You'll get younger at that position. You'll get cheaper at that position. And we just move on from Drew Sanders. Just didn't work out. Never could stay healthy. By the way, this doesn't mean that the rest of the Broncos are safe, because I know what you're thinking. Only 3 candidates, Moose. That's really not a lot, but we do have a lot of players hitting free agency. Now, here are some players that I wouldn't re-sign. I would not re-sign P.J. Locke. I would not re-sign Justin Strnad, JFM, Lil'Jordan, Tyler Badie, or Adam Trautman. There's 6 players right there whose contracts would be off the books, and then I would explore other options, either in the draft or in free agency as well. There's a couple other players that I call bubble spots, which you could convince me either way to re-sign or not re-sign. And those 3 are J.K. Dobbins, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Nate Adkins. Now, the guy that I would probably say I'd want to re-sign most is J.K. Dobbins. The injuries, man, though, they really concern me. It's a lot of nagging red flags at me for J.K. Dobbins. But I think within the parameters of a really team-friendly deal and a team-friendly contract, you could maybe convince me on bringing J.K. Dobbins back. But remember, he has not finished an entire season yet in the NFL fully healthy. That's all I got, though, considering that we've got cut candidates, we've got players I wouldn't re-sign, and we've got bubble spots. Grade my cut candidates for me, A, B, C, D, or F. This is tougher because with the Broncos being as good as they are, you don't want to see a lot of players get off this roster because you went 14-3. Most of these players that played contributed to that 14-3. Either way, let me know down in the comment section down below. That's all I got for you on today's episode. I will be back later on today with more Denver Broncos news and rumors. Thinking about doing some free agent targets that Davis Webb could bring in if he has some influence at offensive coordinator. Until then, stay cool, and mile high salute to you, Broncos country.